Listen to this episode if you have ever wondered if you should be using or leaving Etsy behind in your product-based business. Today, we are talking all things Etsy. This is a conversation that I have with my clients a lot. It was a question that was actually submitted by one of you, and I want to bring it here today because I think it's really a good conversation to have. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and then when you should use Etsy and how it really should be utilized later on in today's episode. This is a conversation that, like I said, I have with my clients all the time. I have clients that come to me primarily on Etsy. I have clients that come to me wanting to expand onto Etsy. It's a great platform, but there are some definite cons and some definite kind of like rules and things to know either before you're on it or if it is your main sales channel. So no matter where you're at within your Etsy journey, that is what we are going to talk about today. Before we dive in, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist, and I help you turn your small business into a brand where you can stand out, sell out, and become that big household name that you were really wanting to. This episode is actually submitted by somebody that's inside of our Small Business Cafe, which is our free podcast community where you can submit questions, get bonus support from me, connect with other small business owners. You can click the link in the show notes to join. She said, I am on Etsy making around $150,000 a year, but I am finding it hard to expand outside of Etsy, and the fees are killing me. How and when is it a good idea to stay or leave, and what are your thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts about Etsy. Like I said, I have clients kind of across the board. Some of them aren't on Etsy. Some of their primary sales channels are on Etsy, and we're focusing on getting them elsewhere or kind of everywhere in between. I have clients that have made up to $500,000 a year on Etsy. So I want to bring you the pros, the cons, kind of the good, the bad, the ugly, and then a good summary at the end of when you should use it, when you shouldn't use it, and what this process of Etsy really looks like. First, we're going to start with the pros. Etsy is a really great platform. There's a reason that it's a multi-billion-dollar platform. It's because they bring so much traffic to you. It's a pretty simple and easy process to get set up, and they already have so much traffic. Etsy is seen as kind of like an industry leader in this world for small businesses. Something we do have to look at with Etsy is they are kind of expanding into not just small businesses. There's a little bit of drop shipping going on right now on Etsy, which I don't love, but primarily it is known, at least from the consumer base, as a small business hub. Think about when you have a very specific product that you're looking for that you don't know if it exists or where it really exists, that you are like, oh, I'll just go on Etsy and I can see. How people utilize Etsy is as a search engine for a pretty specific thing, whether they have a specific person that they are trying to gift to or whatever that might be. Usually they are going to Etsy for a very specific purpose. So they are bringing a lot of traffic to you. And if you have a product that people are absolutely searching for on Etsy, it's a good opportunity for you to be there because they are basically bringing the traffic to you, which is why there are some fees, which we will get to in a little while. This channel can be a little bit more of like a quote unquote passive sales channel, meaning you set it up, there is a little bit of maintenance, but then again, you don't have to do any marketing for Etsy. And honestly, if you are on Etsy and you are marketing and sending people to Etsy, I wouldn't actually recommend that. I would recommend you have your own website to send people to because of those fees that we will get to in a second. But, Etsy is a great platform because they bring your own traffic to you. You have to do very kind of little, I guess, once it is set up. There are some parameters that you do have to be active and making some changes, but you basically set it up and then it's there and they are bringing your traffic to you. It is a little bit more of like a passive sales channel, which is kind of nice. But again, they do take fees, so I wouldn't recommend sending people over to you. Another big pro is that it is a great way to kind of get proof of concept with your product. You can see who's buying from you, what their demographic a little bit looks like, what are their feedback, what's their reviews like. You can kind of get proof of concept before you actually go to market and really expand from a direct to consumer basis. So the major pros of Etsy is that they're bringing people to you. You basically set it up and then the SEO kind of does the trick. And, you can get some really good proof of concept, good kind of marketing. And it's a good way to kind of have like a baseline sales going going into it. Like I have some clients that we set them up on Etsy and we know that they make, $2,000-$3,000 a month on Etsy. We call it good. You don't really have to make extra changes there. Kind of just allows you to have like quote unquote monthly recurring revenue because they are bringing their own traffic. Of course, the traffic is huge during November and December. So I have some clients that are pretty much strictly on Etsy just for Q4 because Etsy's traffic absolutely explodes into Q4. So if you are not on Etsy quite yet, that might be a good thing to do for Q4 as we go into Q4 of 2025 here. When we go into the cons of Etsy, my list is kind of long. Now, I don't want this to discourage you from being on Etsy, but the list for cons is long and you will kind of see why. And then again, we'll kind of wrap it up and do a good summary. My cons for Etsy is that you really don't control anything in your business if it's your major sales channel. Etsy could get shut down tomorrow and you would lose that whole sales channel for your business in and of itself. It could be poof, gone. The other thing that you don't control is the algorithm. They can change their search algorithm. They could add an AI feature that all of a sudden you have sales coming into Etsy and then they're gone. Again, you don't control the algorithm, the search, or any of that. And so it is a little bit risky in and of that sense. You don't have any control over it. They also kind of shield emails from you, information on your customers. They don't want you to be able to contact them and actually transition them over to a direct to consumer purchase. And so there are kind of a lot of stipulations. They are a big stickler for their rules and they have shut people down and they will continue to shut people down without warning. And so having all of your eggs in the Etsy basket is a risky move because you don't control anything. It is algorithm heavy search. You do need some SEO, search engine optimization kind of like experience to be able to really rank on it. And they do kind of push their ads. Like I think their minimum for ads right now to be able to actually be able to do much to it is like $15 to $20 a day, which can absolutely add up. And it just feels like a money grab in a lot of ways for them. So I think Etsy is a great platform, but just be careful of putting all of your eggs in that basket because you don't really control it. It could be gone tomorrow. It's algorithm heavy search. You do need some SEO kind of experience to really understand how it works. And the Etsy ball game is very different than trying to build your own website on Shopify. The other thing that is a con for me, I've kind of alluded to it, but you do have to stay active on Etsy to stay relevant. So Etsy wants you to stay active, to be adding more SKUs all of the time. They want you to be kind of like futzing around and constantly having quote unquote like discounts on your stuff. They want you making changes to your listings. They want to see that you are active. So when I say it's more passive sales, I don't mean you just set it up and you never have to look at it again. If you're doing that right now and you're not making a lot of sales, it's probably because you aren't actually active. And so Etsy doesn't actually keep you relevant. So my clients that are making a lot of money, like multiple six figures on Etsy alone, they spend at least an hour a day just like staying active on Etsy, cleaning up some listings here, responding to this, responding to that. There's a lot that kind of goes into that. Another con is that there is a lot of customer service, a lot more than direct to consumer on average, just because it's just the like kind of clients that Etsy has is that they kind of incentivize customer support. And when things are a little bit more personalized and things like that, there just tends to be a little bit more customer service and they want you to respond as soon as possible. There's like a lot of these badges that they want you to become this star seller and they want you to have free shipping and they want you to always have a discount. And there's like a lot of these stipulations around Etsy that you might not even know this, but if you take an Etsy course, they teach you all of these like very heavy algorithm hacky things because the algorithm does favor people that attach to certain things. They have free shipping, they constantly have a discount, they are this like star seller, they have all of these kind of badges. And in order to do that, you have to maintain pretty strict stipulations of how quickly you respond, what your review rating is, and all of that. And once you lose it, you can really lose a lot of your relevancy. So again, there is a lot of like algorithm heavy things that it is a little bit more like hacky than building a direct to consumer business. Something that we absolutely have to talk about on Etsy is the fees. I don't know the exact fees, but it's right around 10 to 15% for the majority of my clients, which is a really heavy percentage. When you are selling direct to consumer, you should have a 50% profit margin kind of built in at the very minimum on your product. So that's not the end of the world, but especially if you are bringing people to Etsy, if you are bringing any of your own traffic, you shouldn't have to pay that fee, because the fee is basically like a marketing fee that is because they are bringing their own traffic. And so their fees can be really heavy, especially if you have to do ads to stay relevant within your really kind of like competitive keywords that you have. So let's say that you're spending, 15, 20 bucks a day. That's, 600 bucks a month, as well as fees, taking a percentage of every sale. You're basically just paying for visibility, and it absolutely can add up. So if you're bringing your own traffic, I just wouldn't recommend that to Etsy. You also are competing against your exact same product right alongside of you. Again, people go in there looking for something very specific. They're looking for, Virgo candles, and they go in there, Virgo crystal candle is what people are searching, or gifts for dad for Christmas, or, personalized handkerchief for wedding, like all of those different things. People are going in there searching for something very specific. And when you pop up, you are populated next to your exact product or very similar products right alongside of you. And so you're basically competing for who can have the best photos, who can have the cleanest listing. You're not as much on your own website, where you're more so competing against your products. And again, you own your entire website, so people kind of bring you there. And my last major con that I really want to talk about is that it is really hard to convert people from Etsy over to a lifelong customer. Etsy really shields you from their emails, from being able to contact them in other ways, to being able to link anything. Basically, they want you to, of course, stay on their platform, because that's how they make money. And so they make it really hard for you to transition a first customer into a lifelong customer. So you're basically always trying to scramble for new customers on Etsy, as opposed to your own community. When you build direct to consumer sales, they oftentimes come back to you, but oftentimes on Etsy, people don't remember your brand name at all. Like, they don't know who they purchased from, because all they remember is that they bought it on Etsy. I've had people ask me, hey, where did you get this? And I say, oh, I bought it on Etsy. I didn't say, oh, there's this shop named X, Y, and Z on Etsy. It was great. I just bought it on Etsy. And so there's not as much brand recognition in every purchase. There's not as much of referral basis. There's not as much of community building that you can build on Etsy. That's not to say that people won't come back, because they do track your orders, so they can go back and find it, but it's just not as easy to actually convert to people. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you who are loving the podcast but wish we could dive deeper into every episode topic together. I have actually started a completely free podcast community called the Small Business Cafe for exactly this purpose. Inside this community, we dive deeper into every podcast episode, provide bonus resources, and actually host completely free monthly coaching calls with me, so you can get your questions answered. Plus, you get to submit your questions for our Friday coaching session episodes and connect with other founders too. If you have been loving being a part of this podcast and want to connect with other brand founders, plus get extra support from me, click the link in the show notes below to join. So, some of the pros being that they have really heavy traffic. It can be a little bit more of a passive model. You don't have to do as much marketing on Etsy, because Etsy is doing their own marketing. And it's a good way to kind of get your proof of concept and get you some feedback. And it's a good way to build monthly recurring revenue that isn't really up to you. It's a great kind of secondary sales channel. But the cons being that they take some pretty big fees. It is kind of a labor intensive process, needing to keep track of the algorithm and all of the things that you really should be doing. And you really don't control it. At the end of the day, you don't own your business if it's strictly on Etsy, because Etsy can shut you down. They don't allow you to have your emails. So you're not really building an email list even. They can shut Etsy down anytime, and then your entire business is basically poof gone overnight. So we really don't want that. You really have to stay active on there, and they really incentivize you having so many products, which is harder on you to manage. On your own website, I have clients that have one product. I have clients that have 5 products, whereas on Etsy, they really want you to have 50 plus listings. So Etsy is a little bit more quantity rather than quality. It's a little bit more transactional rather than relationship driven, but there are definitely pros to it. Again, you're also competing against your same product alongside of you. So your photos really matter. Your product listings really, really matter. Your SEO really matters. You really have to rank among the top purchases, which if you're in an industry that is really saturated and there's a bunch of your products, it is really hard to compete and to rank because you are competing against everybody as opposed to just competing against your own products. And again, it's really hard to convert them into lifelong customers. So to answer your question, the initial question was, I'm on Etsy making around $150,000 a year, but I'm finding it hard to expand outside of Etsy and the fees are killing me. How and when is it a good idea to stay or leave? And what are your thoughts? At the end of the day, Etsy has its time and place, and I think it's a really wonderful platform, but it really shouldn't be your main income stream. Anybody that comes to me making their main income off of Etsy, I try to transition to at least having their own direct-to-consumer sales channel, because if you're marketing and you're sending people to Etsy, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot, taking 10 to 15% off of your profit with every sale, because if you really shouldn't be sending your own traffic to Etsy, because it just doesn't make sense. That's what you're paying for on Etsy, is for them to bring traffic to you. And then that allows for you to at least try to convert these people into lifelong customers, but it is really hard. The conversion rate between Etsy customer and lifelong, like recurring customer, is really, really low. It's usually under 1%, which is a lot less than on your website. It should be like 25%. You can just really control your own sales so much more when you do have a website. Now, if you're looking for a side hustle, Etsy might be good to make, again, a couple of $1,000, couple of $100 here and there, but it's not as easy as people think of just like setting up your store and letting it happen. You have to do maintenance. They really want you to add more listings all the time. They really want you to be pretty active on there, and you do have to really understand SEO. And so if you want a side hustle, it's a great way to make like a couple hundred, couple $1,000, but it really shouldn't be your main income stream if you're really trying to build a brand. What I recommend with Etsy is, with my clients, I think it's a great second revenue stream, and it's a great way to, again, kind of get market research, get reviews, get kind of proof of concept, see that there's people searching for it, but it really can't be your main income stream. In my opinion, just with the business brain and with like the profit brain that I have, the numbers side of it just doesn't make sense for you to market and send people over to Etsy. And even if you have an Etsy, I don't even recommend having it on your social media as if you have it, because it's kind of like Amazon. If a business is on Amazon, a lot of times I will just buy it straight from Amazon because I'll get free 2-day shipping. I know the process. It already has my credit card and it's easy peasy. Whereas on Etsy, it's very similar. You can use Apple Pay. It's very easy to check out. So a lot of times we see people prefer to just shop from Etsy as opposed to going to your website. But then again, you're sending traffic to Etsy, losing those 10 to 15% fees. So for this person who's making $150,000 a year on Etsy, and you're finding it hard to expand outside of Etsy, that's not uncommon. What that tells me is we probably have a marketing breakdown. I don't know if you have a Shopify or not, or if you have, your own website, whatever platform it's on. I just love Shopify, but it is really hard to transition outside of Etsy. Just understand that Etsy and building your own website are two completely different strategies. Etsy is SEO. It's very kind of like masculine business. It's very transactional business. It's very quantity, as opposed to building your own direct-to-consumer sales channel. You have to build a brand. It's a little bit more, emotional. You have to build out the process of it, but it's a little bit more relationship driven. You're building a community and people are coming back. On Etsy, you are like just dying for new customers all the time, whereas on your own website, we're hoping to get people returning, and that's what actually makes your life and your business so much easier on you. And so it really depends on the business you want to have, but if you're looking to be like a household name, there are big brands like Made by Mary is on Etsy. Like I see big brands on Etsy, but you also have to understand that there's tens of thousands of sellers on Etsy across the world. And so it's a totally different ballgame than building your own direct-to-consumer basis. So how and when is it a good idea to stay or leave, and what are your thoughts? What I recommend is you don't ever have to be off of Etsy, but what I really want for you is you can make so much higher profit on your own website. Is I recommend having your own website, building your own direct-to-consumer side, having that, and then basically thinking of Etsy as like a secondary channel. Again, if you want a side hustle, Etsy is great, but again, you don't control it. But it's a great way to not have to do too much marketing and send people to Etsy. It's more so you're replacing marketing with like SEO and kind of like appeasing the algorithm algorithm of Etsy. But if you already have $150,000 a year, I don't want you to abandon that. You say the fees are killing me. I'm hoping that that means you're at least cutting a profit. If you're not, because of the Etsy fees, you have to look elsewhere to be able to not have so much dependency on Etsy. We have to send people direct to consumer because you're always going to be able to make a higher profit on a direct to consumer basis. It's a good idea to still have it there, but what I would recommend is to put your energy into building direct to consumer because you'll actually have to work a lot less because these people are going to be coming back. You can still build that recurring revenue on your own site. You'll have a community and you control everything. You also can build an email list. And it just allows you to actually own your business a little bit more. You know, even like a venture capitalist or like an investor really won't invest in an Etsy based company because again, you don't own it. Again, you don't have an email list. And so it's okay for it to be a secondary channel and just like utilize the traffic that it has and try to transition them over into lifelong customers, but it is really hard. So Etsy is all about really understanding if it's something good for you or if it's something not good for you. And these are just like some of my thoughts around it. I do think that there's pros. I do think that the cons list is long. Now, it isn't something that I'm anti. I still think you should be on Etsy. Just make sure that it's not you're putting all of your eggs in the Etsy basket because it can be really hard. I have helped dozens of customers transition from Etsy focused over to direct to consumer because it's just a more sustainable and scalable business model. At a certain point, you can milk the sales out of Etsy and like not be able to really expand because the amount of sales that you can make on Etsy is maxed out at the traffic that Etsy has, right? And so I have clients that plateau a lot of times at the 150 mark or like the 350 mark. The only way you can expand is to have more products, which adds more complication, which adds more revenue, which adds more for you to manage. So at a certain point, you will plateau and you can't really scale on Etsy. And so it's great if you want an extra $150,000, $300,000 in sales, we can definitely do that. But I would recommend in every business, if you really want to have a brand more that just makes a couple thousand bucks here and there, is to really build out your own direct to consumer basis and send your own marketing to your own website because that's just going to be the easiest way for you to do it. It's going to be scalable, it's going to be more sustainable, and you're going to have just like a lot more fun being able to just set it up and hopefully get your marketing channels going to kind of have that seamless sales system through your own site. You make more profit, you control your business, you have more opportunity to scale, and you won't plateau because you can consistently scale your own brand when it's not just looking at more products. We can sustainably scale when we have your own Shopify. So again, I'm not anti-Etsy, but I think these are some things that I really just want you to weigh in the process of using Etsy. I would never tell you to leave Etsy. If you are making $150,000 a year and you at least have some profit coming in from that and it's not, totally daunting, I don't think you need to leave Etsy, but I would recommend starting to build your own direct to consumer side if that's at all possible. If you want me to answer your next question on a podcast just like this, please click the link in the show notes, join our free podcast community, the Small Business Cafe. We also do monthly coaching calls inside of there. Would love to see your face on our next monthly coaching call. I share bonuses, I share some extra support, as well as you can connect with other business owners there as well. I would love to have you there. If you love this podcast, please send this to your friend that's on Etsy so it can spark up some conversation. The best way to really learn business is to have a business bestie that you can chat with these conversations about. Would love for you to share this to your business bestie, as well as if you love the episode, make sure that you subscribe. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. I hope that you loved this episode. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always, and I will see you next week. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.